Hi everybody. So for my portfolio 3, I created a Google Slides to present my workshop that I designed, which is all about labeling and how it can benefit or harm movements, organizing, and social spaces in general. So here are the goals for my workshop. I wanted the people who attended it, being anyone who wanted to on Oregon State campus, faculty and students included. I wanted people to have a deeper understanding of whether they find their labels comforting or whether they kind of feel trapped within them. I wanted people to also gain a deeper understanding of how labeling can lead to gatekeeping and organizing and prevent intersectional movements. And keep in mind, I think it's important to remember with this presentation, it's not for people who have necessarily taken a class like this one, so it's definitely an introduction to a lot of these concepts. So to start off with my workshop, I start with an introduction activity on the individual level. So individuals on a paper describe themselves using identifiers that would they might find on a consensus form. So basically they list the basic pillars of their identity in 1 or 2 word terms. So on the right bottom hand corner, you can see here my example of this. So just like super simple, as little words as possible. And then after doing this individually, they're going to reflect, was this hard? Was it uncomfortable? Did they find stability in being rooted in these simple terms, or did they feel anxious that they couldn't find one to fit one of the aspects of their identity, as sometimes happens? And then afterwards, everybody would pair up and share and discuss what the process felt like. Sorry for my shaky camera here. So after that, they're in partners, and I would have them take turns introducing themselves and asking questions about each other, but the difference in this next activity is they're able to communicate using everything but the list that they have just generated about themselves. So they are discussing things about themselves using details and verbs, but not their labels. And then afterwards, folks will have the opportunity to share with the entire group how this process was different than the first. So, did they like it? Did they not? Was it freeing to not identify with labels, or was it really hard to explain who you were without them? And then after that, I just have a couple slides that are basically not direct activities, but things that would be presented to the group and people would be able to share if they felt like it. So these are some things on how labels can be beneficial in bringing a community together, making people feel seen, and celebrating each other and being in solidarity. These are some key points in how labeling can silence the major queer practice of being unassuming of people's identity and actively challenging norms. So, how do people seeking labels for others prevent that kind of work? And fixed labeling doesn't really leave space for other experiences and continuous change, etc. And I just have a couple thoughts on labeling and queer politics continued. So, labels and activism can lead to gatekeeping within movements, and organizers start to feel that their movement is only for people of a specific identity. So this is where I talk about how labeling can really prevent intersectional movement. And I have a visual representation here. So I have a carrot farmer saying, it's a carrot farmers meeting, we're planning a protest for pesticides. And then on the right-hand side, we have someone saying the strawberry farmers want less pesticides too, and we also want to address the drought. So in the middle, I just have some notes here about how these two people are both farmers. So they have shared experiences, but they have different perspectives and resources, but they have issues that would go together and could be part of the same movement. So what would it look like if they pooled their resources and joined in numbers, and would that be more powerful? And then just leave space for discussion here. And then I have a final big activity that's more physical. So I would have papers up around the room indicating major parts of their identity. And then I read the following statements on the next slide and ask participants to move about the room to be in the category that best fits the statement for you. So here are the statements. So for example, the first is the part of my identity that I am most proud to label is. And then people would move about to go under race or sexuality, etc. Just a few others I have here are the part that receives the most discrimination is what. The part that I don't feel I have a label for, which is really important. The part I am most aware of each day and least aware of each day. So these are just things to get people thinking more about, get people thinking more about where they like to use the labels and where they don't. Because this workshop isn't about finding an answer to whether labels are helpful or not completely, because I think it's a really individual thing. So this workshop is definitely focused on having people reflect personally on that. And then I just have a couple takeaways. After that activity, I was thinking of doing a think, pair, share, which means people have a bit to write down ideas of their own, then they pair up and share about the process of that activity, and then they're able to share outwards to the group. And then I wanted to bring up the point that if there's clubs that these people are a part of at OSU, is it a single identity club? Does it leave space for people with intersectional experiences? Is the only voice being heard in the group the one who only experiences the issue the club addresses? So, how can we implement what we learned here outwards on campus? And everybody has unique perspectives, but everybody also can find shared experiences with each other. So basically, how are these labels helpful to us personally, but also how do they interact with the movements and organizing we participate with? So, okay, that's the end of my Google Slides, and yeah, if anybody has any other questions, they can comment below. Good job finishing the term, you guys. Yeah, signing off.